So, David, while we wait to people getting on, that's 9 years a day since that vote.
Yes, I know. I
What a
remember.
terrible mistake the people of Scotland made that day.
Yes, they did, and it doesn't matter what your reasons were for voting no. Now, anybody that has looked back over the last 9 years and what's actually going on can see that the decision that they made, no matter how they made that decision and what they made that decision for, it was a mistake.
It was, and everybody suffered for it. Right, we've got Stevie Bank here, Christina Mackey, Wee Bird, Evelyn, D Dop, Wolf Bet. Better sort out Facebook, hadn't it?
Aye, I think you better.
Edit privacy, make it public. And bingo, Facebook sorted out. So we should get Facebook comments coming through shortly. Anyway, we were saying 9 years ago. Sword one, David.
Okay, well, yeah.
But I like Evan Hume's one. You've just pointed it out the door in 24.
That has got to be the saying. I like wee things like that because there are things that you can actually shout at a march and rally. So the march at your end of the rally. Out the door at 24. Just keep it going over and over again. Out the door at 24. Out the door at 24. And that then will get people that you're passing by in the street. They were thinking, out the door on 24, what does that mean? And eventually they'll see things on TV and it'll all click together for them at the right time. So that's a really good one, Evelyn. That really is. And
right, Barbara's in, Lorraine's in, Beanie's in, Paul's in, Mark Leslie's in. We've got Wolf Pet, Lorraine, Paul McMillan, FY, Dylan, hi Dylan, Rebecca, the Curry House, hi the Curry House, hi George, hi Wee Bird, Robert. We just wait for Facebook comments coming through. First one through the doors, Nancy Maguire for Facebook. McGyver, sorry, for Facebook. Sorry about that, Nancy. I'll get slapped in the ear after next time she sees me.
I've got a wee test for you here, right? All yous on YouTube. I want you to actually put in your comments, but get type out the door in 24. Do it now. Do it now. Let's see it up.
Hi Melanie, all right, John, Eddie. Right, you have to put in comments out the door in 24. Okay. Right, hey, we're nearly there, David. We're nearly up there the 100 mark. So we got there 100 mark. We'll get this thing underway. While we're waiting, we may as well give another mention to Chain of Freedom. Time's ticking by, folks. Yep. www.chainoffreedom.scot. Go register.
How many weeks is it until it happens, David? Let's just
3 or 4.
3 or 4 weeks. 3 or 4 weeks to make this happen right across Scotland. Come on, guys, let's get serious. Chain of Freedom, join up, get it done. Get your place chosen now. Let's be serious about this. Okay.
Right, we're up there 100 marks, so let's get this thing underway. Did you hear John McDonnell's interview yesterday at BBC Radio Scotland?
Yes. Now, it's John McDonnell, you'll remember, he was the financial spokesperson for the Labour Party with Jeremy Corbyn. And he got punted maybe more or less at the same time as Jeremy Corbyn did. He didn't want independence, neither did Jeremy Corbyn. However, I don't hold that against him. Not much anyway. They are still socialists. But if they were really that socialist, then they would give people the democratic choice. But that's beside the point. Let's not do it. But
well, anyway,
he wants to give us a referendum, doesn't he?
Yes.
For the goodness of his soul, he wants to give us a referendum. Isn't that nice of him, kiddies?
Hi, Elizabeth. You got your notification on Facebook. No notification on Facebook. Sorry about that. Say Facebook off the meta off and play about with my settings. You know. I mean, never I changed the settings to public 2 minutes ago because I could accommodate it once I go live. At that point in time, nobody could see it except for me.
Yeah.
You know, previously it was friends and family.
Let's get serious. Facebook are up to it as usual, right? So therefore, let's not be surprised about that. Okay.
But anyway, what John McDonnell, MP, tells BBC Radio Scotland is, if the Scottish people want it, and they voted for it through their parliament, then Westminster should not stand in its way. It should be granted. You know, but it's the high-handed granted bit that annoys everybody, isn't it? It just wrecked everything. So, but we'll get a wee bit merrier as we get further into the broadcast, because then we'll get to you, McCall's fucking stupid column and the Scotsman shortly. Right, Starmer's had a busy weekend, does he know?
He wants tax decreases, tax increases. He wants he wants refugees returns. No, he wants the gangs that push the refugees off in the canoes to be locked up. He wants to rejoin the EU. No, he doesn't want to rejoin the EU, and maybe he's not going to be allowed to rejoin the EU. What's going on?
Oh, right, on the tax increase thing, right? He was asked about whether he would impose tax increases on the many, because they've already stated they're not going to put in a wealth tax, haven't they?
Yeah.
So therefore, he would not commit to keeping tax rates the same. But as we know, keep tax rates the same is basically the same as a tax increase, because you've got your pay rise and you've entered into the tax bands. So, but what he would not commit to keeping he would not commit to not raising taxes on the plebs. As I say, we already know he's not going to raise taxes on the rich, because he's no mansion tax, no tax on the rich. His 5% pledge as a wealth tax was out the window, sure. So basically, he's letting us know that austerity is staying, and if he has to raise taxes, he will, but it'll be on the plebs.
But forgive me for asking this, David. What are Labour for?
I'm not quite sure, but on immigration, as we know, he was there in Europe talking to Interpol at The Hague. Now, he was at Interpol trying to convince them that he knew that the UK had opted to leave Interpol, that he wants to work closely with them to smash the gangs. He also wants a returns agreement with the EU, and apparently in exchange for that, he would need to take a share of a EU inward migration. You know,
is that returns as in glass bottles, or is it plastic bottles? Which are we talking about?
We're talking about refugees.
I don't think he knows what Labour are for.
No, but what he's saying is he wants a returns, but what he doesn't want to do, or what he's telling us he's not going to do, is accept a share of EU inward migration, which would be what would be required in return for the returns treaty, right? To get back into the Dublin Agreement.
I don't know if any of you saw this over the weekend. I don't know if any of you saw this over the weekend. However, there was that many refugees that landed on, I forget the name of the island, it's an Italian island. There was that many people landed on this island on Italy that it doubled the population. That is the level of refugee movement that we are actually seeing right now into the EU. The amount of movement from mainland Europe to the UK is nothing by comparison.
I get that, David, but anyway, if he wants a returns agreement, he's going to have to enter into the EU scheme on divvying up inward migration, because as we know, the EU is being swamped with people coming across the Mediterranean, right? The Tories then bring this one up and say, hold on a minute, your quota would be between 100 and 120,000. We've only got 50,000 a year landed here as it is. But these people don't seem to understand this. We need inward migration.
Yes, we
do. Whether like it or no, the labour market's short.
Yeah.
You know.
However, you can actually see it when you've got a wee Italian island that doubles in population over the weekend. Just refugees landing there, right?
Yes.
That's crazy. And you then can understand why Ursula von der Leyen put out her statement about we will control migration into the EU, right? And they have to try and control it. They have to find a way of controlling it. As I said in one of the other programs the other week there are at the moment, there's 27 million refugees cast adrift in the world at this moment in time. What are you going to do about it, guys? What are you going to do about it, you know?
As I say, the Tories are ripping them a new one, saying they need to accept 120,000 people. The other thing he is saying is he would clear the backlog and set up safe and legal routes of Parliament.
Yes, that's right. You have to give people throughout the world a chance. If you're living in a situation that is untenable, if you're living in a situation where there's no water or no food, or perhaps your country's at war and there's a good chance you could get killed, even though you are you're not taking part in that war, right? Then you can become a refugee, and therefore you can manage to get yourself on foot to another safer country. And if you don't have a safe route of passage, then that is dreadful, and that's what the British government are doing right now.
Anyway, part 3 when it comes to what do you call him, Starmer. He's now being accused of betraying Brexit because he said that it's an obligation. He owes his children to rebuild a closer a relationship with Europe, even though he's still saying he won't go back into the single market, he won't go back into the customs union. For 2025, when the present trade and cooperation agreement is up for review, he sees it as he needs to get as closer aligned to the EU as closely as possible.
Well, here's a wee bit of reality for Mr. Starmer, right? The EU, personally, I don't think they'll let you back in, because you're only going to serve one term because of the situation you've been put into, and therefore the EU are no daft enough to say, right, hang on a second, their lot are going to get back in and push you back out again. So why go through the whole thing over and over and over again ad nauseum? Anyway, there you go. That's my point. Starmer.
So Starmer wants to align us closer with Europe. He says that he owes it to his children to get as closely aligned as possible without rejoining. And we'll get the haunted pencil screaming for GB News or whatever platform that Waddock owns at Top TV. He's screaming that Starmer's betraying Brexit. Brexit's no bloody working.
Yeah.
No.
The whole point of it is, if Starmer isn't going to be entertaining even the single market or customs union, then as far as that's concerned, that is just hard Brexit. That's all it is. Basically, he has just spoken for a hard Brexit. England do have the choice that if they wanted to, they could go into the same as Norway or as Iceland or wherever, and then at least that way they end up with, I believe it's the single market, don't they? They don't get the customs union, but they get the single market.
They get the single market. But that would be through EFTA or something similar. As we know, the EFTA group,
European Free Trade Association, at the time in 2014, 9 years ago, for what we were going to vote for. That's when Norway were across a whole delegation were here in Glasgow, discussing with the Scottish government in Glasgow about us becoming a member of EFTA upon leaving the UK. So when Better Together was saying, that's it, you get if you vote against the Union Treaty, then effectively that's you out of the EU. No, it wasn't. Even in worst case scenario, we would have had EFTA, the European Free Trade Association, would have still given us the single market and allowed us to trade freely with the other European nations.
Right. A country your size, but they don't want England. Yeah. And they don't want the UK. They have too much influence, society, and too much influence in EFTA. So the EFTA nations have said, no, you're not joining.
That's right.
But as I say, Starmer said that he wants to get as closely aligned without joining the customs union and without joining the single market. So just talking bollocks.
He might as well not have said anything.
Yeah.
But having said that, it shows what a twisty Tory he really is.
Anyway, let's move on. The Scotsman's on an article by Ewan McCall, and it's the unionists are starting to scream, we won't recognise any vote. We won't recognise any vote. Now, this is to do with a motion being put in front of the conference. Now, not everybody's happy with the motion. Some would like to amend it so it's more precise. and it's wording, but at the same time, the unionists are already screaming, we won't recognise it. We'll get Angela Rayner of the Labour Party saying they won't recognise it. And what we're being told in the Scotsman today by this Ewan McCollum is that it doesn't matter what we do in elections. Without Westminster granting us permission to ask ourselves a question about our own future, then we don't have that, right? Now, we know that's bollocks because Angus Ben McNeill, everybody spoke about Section 79 to Section 81 as Supreme Court judgment. There is power at the ballot box, you know. So they're actually having an attack at the wording of the motion, and what Ewan McCall's saying is that the wording of the motion to go before the Scottish Parliament to put up respects before the Scottish people means nothing because Westminster didn't give permission to do it.
Do you mind if I just put up what the basic kernel of the thing is, right?
There you go.
Conference agrees that the SNP manifesto for the UK general election should state on page 1, line 1. Remember Humber said this. Page 1, line 1. The following simple and powerful statement: vote SNP for Scotland to become an independent country. Now that's what David and that's what I believe in, right? However, here we go. Conference further agrees that the SNP manifesto and campaign should highlight the direct link between Westminster rule and the many changes we are facing as a country and demonstrate the opportunities of independence across board on the issues that matter most to the people of Scotland. Fair enough. Conference believes that if the SNP subsequently wins most seats at the general election in Scotland, so the SNP subsequently wins most seats
in
Scotland, the Scottish Government is empowered to begin immediate negotiations with the UK Government to give democratic effect to Scotland becoming an independent country and to take the following actions as part in preparation for Scotland's independence. Right, okay, fair enough. My amendment is, and it's far more straightforward than that. Conference believes that if the SNP subsequently wins the most seats at the general election in Scotland, the people will have spoken. This was Hamza's words. The people will have spoken, and the Scottish Government is empowered to begin immediate transfer of powers, which give democratic effect to Scotland as an independent country. Agree or disagree? Let's see it on the comments here. Agree or disagree? Let's see it.
Quentin's in. Hi, Quentin. He says 50% plus 1, or I won't recognise it either.
Too bad, mate. We're going to use Westminster's own rules. Are you going to be working on behalf of the British establishment, the poor wee British establishment? Oh, it's a fucking shame that we would possibly use Westminster as a first past the post election. Of course it is. Of course it's a first past the post election. If you're going to try and do that, you're going to have to contact the Speaker at the House of Commons and get him to fucking change the rules so every single one of the blooming parties in Westminster abide by the same rule, which is the number of votes cast. If that was the case, Boris wouldn't have won the last time, and bloody Tony Blair, the fucker, wouldn't have blooming won his 35% landslide, right? So let's get it right.
Anyway, they're already screaming, we won't recognise you, we won't recognise you. And we've got people in the mainstream media trying to tell us that we're only allowed to ask ourselves a question if Westminster says we can ask ourselves a question. That's what they're trying to say, the Supreme Court said. David, I've been asked to ask you why you're drinking out a jug. Do you not know what they use them for in hospitals, apparently?
No, this is the King's Theatre from the pantomime, and we brought it home, and that's what I got my beer in. Would you believe? You know, so we brought it home. It's such a good thing because they're starting to talk to each other. You know, so there you go.
Aye. So that basically what this noise is starting about is they're trying to tell us the rules of the game. Well, whom's has put it into the motion for conference what the rules of the game will be, you know. So basically what they're playing for is rules of the game, you know. But there isn't any rules. In a first past the post, it's the majority of seats. Margaret Thatcher stated that herself. The rules have been set. Humza and Stephen Flynn have decided that they're going to make it clear it's seats, no votes, which is the right thing to do.
And Ash Regan and Pete Wishart both are asking for it to be number of votes cast instead of seats. So they want the blooming rules changed in Westminster.
Well,
hang on, David. They can go ahead and put their request into the Speaker of the House of Commons and see if he's prepared to change the rules so that it becomes number of votes cast in each case for each party. I'll tell you where they would be told to blooming go and jump off of, right? And
apparently Pete Wishart's changed his position. So if anybody's going to have an argument about it, then Ash Regan is welcome to put an amendment in for the motion at a conference, and we'll see where it goes from there.
Yeah, right.
You know? So, right, let's move on. Humza's in New York for America's climate change week. They have it every year. It's an annual thing. He's there to give a speech on Monday, meaning today, on paying reparation or compensating nations who are suffering the worst from climate change, because let's face it, some of these small nations and islands didn't create the problem. They're just suffering from the problem. So Humza's been invited to give a speech on it because Scotland has already got a small fund paying out basically reparation to smaller islands and nations that are suffering really bad for the effects of climate change. Now, the unionists are kicking up a fuss saying he's wasting public money getting there, you know, but they also kicked up a fuss about £300,000 to ship a stolen totem pole back to Canada, you know. But it is important that Humza plays his part on the international stage, is it not?
Exactly, right.
No, it's not the first David Milligan rant, believe it or not. He said a few. So
don't you watch that one to go at me for having a rant? When it's something I do believe in, really, then I'll have a rant. So
I mean, even though we Westminster try to constrain us as much as possible, Scotland is still a world leader in this stuff, green energy and technology. And he had the First Minister invited to tell him his ideas on reparation for countries and nations that have suffered the best. It just goes hand in tail with what Nicola Sturgeon was doing. She was striding across the world like a giant. And Humza has been recognised as a rising 100, but at times he's striding across the planet and all. And you can bet your boots he's promoting the idea of Scotland going its own way as well.
It's maybe something that you don't realise, right? But the Tories actually have a minister in charge of hydrogen advancement. Now, you do know, because I've written about this umpteen times, there's green hydrogen and there's blue hydrogen. In actual fact, there's many colours of hydrogen. But blue hydrogen is made from natural gas. It converts natural gas into hydrogen, and therefore it's still considered as sorry, forgotten the bloody word. A fossil fuel, right?
Thanks, you've been thanked for your rant, David.
Yeah.
So thanks very much for your generous super chat.
Whereas green hydrogen is produced by using water, and you put positive and negative of DC voltage into it, and off one side comes oxygen.
Okay, science lesson start.
Now, hold on a second. Hold on. And the Tories have got a minister that is looking at hydrogen advancement. So in other words, where are they taking all the advancement from? All the advancement's coming from Scotland, and they're taking advantage of that. So when Humza goes abroad to have his word on climate change and everything else that goes with it, he's got every perfect reason to do so. Whereas the Tories, they don't, because they're just blocking everything that's renewable. End of. And that was.
I don't know which Davey he's talking about, whether he prefers you ranting or me ranting, but your me rant seems to have taken everybody by surprise.
All right, okay, right, fine. Enough. Let's move on. All
right. So it is important that Humza's promoting Scotland and the technologies that we're talking about, because we are at the forefront of them. Right, Electoral Commission says voter ID form of voter suppression. Have you seen the report?
The Electoral Commission. I haven't seen the report, David, but as you know, we did discuss it in some length before the programme. Go on, tell me what you think of it. All right.
Wait a minute. The experience of voters, that's great. I've got the report in front of me.
Yeah.
And the recommendations: increase awareness of support available for disabled voters.
That's the whole point around it.
Voter ID.
People should have been told that they could get a form from the local electoral commission, the local electoral department of the
voter ID identification.
Yeah. And they weren't told. This is something that is now 100 years behind time. These people should have been told, they should have been recommended, should have been given the advice of go and get your voter ID from there.
Also, the Electoral Commission's report said that the unemployed and the young were being excluded. The young, because there wasn't as many forms of identification available to them. Why is it that pensioners could use their Oyster card, but a young person couldn't? Well, the rules are different for the generation that we know goes out and votes, for the generation with aspirations, right? So young people and the unemployed especially, they were denied votes. And what they're saying is, basically, it was deliberate. And they also get tore into the Westminster government over the fact that they didn't let people know. They deliberately didn't advertise the fact that people needed voter ID, and they deliberately didn't advertise how they got voter ID if they couldn't afford to buy the correct photographic identification.
Yeah.
So basically,
isn't this the one that Jacob Rees-Mogg made the mistake of in his one of his speeches? He said it bounced back on us. We ended up knocking out people that tended to vote for us. It was round about that, wasn't it? It was something round about that, where they actually brought in this thing about voter ID, and they were actually killing the people that tended to vote for them, the old folk, as well as the young folk.
That's right, because you get a certain age, your driving licence is expired. You're not getting a passport because you can't get health insurance to go anywhere. So you're excluded and all.
Yeah.
So what they're basically saying is this is deliberate a manipulation of the voting system.
Yeah.
And it was targeted at the very young and the unemployed, and it was done as a form of voter suppression. And
common denominator, we need rid of the Tories. In actual fact, we need rid of all Tories. For the first time this morning, I actually saw somebody on from England proposing that they actually form a new political party, which is something that David and I have been talking about for a long, long time in England. It's needed for people in England to actually form a new political party to effectively usurp the Tory and the Red Tory party, because they're both two cheeks of the same fucking arse, right? Anyway,
so it was a damning report, and it made it quite clear that this was a deliberate attempt, really, at voter suppression. Then they made a bundle of recommendations on levelling up the amount of the types of identification that the young could use, that make the unemployed aware of where they can get their voter certification, all the usual stuff. But they say the experience of people in the 2023 local elections down in England, seen thousands and thousands and thousands and thousands of people show up at polling stations right across England and Wales to be turned away.
Yeah. Can you imagine that? Can you imagine going to a polling station? I mean, each time I've gone to a polling station, I've had my polling card with me and all the rest of it, and there's been no bother, right? Can you imagine going to a polling station and getting told, no, go away, go on. You're not in this, and you don't have any voter ID with you, and you're being shocked that you're not allowed to vote. You've lived in this country for all of your life, and there you are. You're not able to vote anymore. Was
Aye,
hard.
that's an interesting thing. When asked about it, but Moggy admits that they were trying to ride the whore. You know. Right, let's move on to some popular shit.
Yeah.
Liz Truss, what the was that all about on the telly that day, David? You were telling me about it.
I woke up, switched on the TV, and who should I see slap bang in the middle of Sky News was Liz Truss giving a speech. And I thought, what? She was trying to replay our premiership. She was trying to sort of like restate it as in okay, I got this and this wrong, but really, what I was talking was perfect common sense, you know, and effectively what she's been doing is she's been talking about giving rich people a tax cut. Do you realise just how stupid that is? In the poor section of society, and I'm talking about people here that might even own their house, but they've got a mortgage. They're poor people. They are poor people now. They might not realise it, but they are poor people, and that they're not going to get the benefit of the tax cut that somebody that rich has got. You know,
Jeremy Hunt scrubbing about, but he's always trying to cost his tax cuts by scrapping public works and things like that. You know, cutting benefits, doing away with a triple walk and a pension. He's trying to claw back that way.
Aye, but for the poor people, aye, that's right. So in other words, the poor people, all they've got is a state pension if they're an old age pensioner, right? He's going to take money off of them and give it to the fucking rich. Where's the common sense in that? Where's the fairness in that?
There isn't anything. There isn't. But as I say, I don't know what the story with Truss is today. You tell me she's on a telly.
Yeah,
this person airtime. Thanks, Dylan.
She was on BBC News and on Sky News. Why she should be allowed that amount of airtime? I mean, my God, did they not have anything else to report on? Well, let's see. What else did they have? They had Russell. What do they call the guy again?
That's the next subject, Russell Brand.
Yeah, they had Russell Brand to report on. Yeah, but there was loads of other stuff they could have reported on. Loads of other stuff, and yet they gave this huge tranche of blooming time to Liz Truss. My goodness me, every minute she was in power, she was costing the country hundreds of thousands of pounds.
I think the total so far is up to about 107 million now.
Yeah.
That's what the total of her disastrous mini budgets company.
Yeah. Crazy. Absolutely crazy.
We were talking last time about Sunak wasting public money with her talking about just scrapping HS2, even though they spent 2.4 billion on the plan and all, but you know.
Yeah.
So 2.4 billion planning a bloody train track. Wasn't buying the land and all that crap, isn't it?
Hang on, I've got a bit of paper here. Hang on. There we are. There's London, and there's Manchester. Right? Okay, we'll draw a line between London and Manchester. There's the plan done. Can I charge you 2.4 billion now, please?
Nah, you've got to buy out of land in between. That was a wee HS1. Tory gentry that the HS1's land was going through. Yeah.
The problem is.
Thanks, Mark.
The problem is that major civil works like that are being used as an excuse to take money out of the public purse and put it into the elite's pocket, right? This infrastructure that goes ahead between London and Manchester, really I've got no good argument against it, providing they pay for it themselves and providing the money goes into the pockets of the people that actually build the thing. The rich people don't build anything. The rich don't understand this. You get this through your heads. Rich people don't actually build anything. Rich people, what they do is they organise and they get people to build things for them, and they use the sweat off their backs to actually create money that they take away.
Aye, so I'm bemused by Liz Truss getting airtime to try and justify her time in office, because it was a bloody disaster. Right, now apparently there's Russell Brand at trial by telly.
Yeah.
Really, what is going on here?
Well, there's a few different. I don't like Russell Brand. I think he's creepy. I saw him once on a comedy show on TV, and I just thought, guy's creepy. I don't like him. Right, fine. However, that doesn't mean that automatically he's now a sex pest or a rapist or whatever, right? If that's the case, then give him a trial. Get the people that are accusing him to stand up in court, right? Okay. But what you don't do is you actually make up a program and put it on Channel 4 that tries him on TV. That means the man can never get a fair trial.
That's right.
You know, you have to. This is basic, guys. This is the reason why we were threatened with contempt of court if we knew anything about Nicola Sturgeon affair, right? Was because if it came to court, then anything we could say could maybe change jurors' idea of what's going on, right? So this is basic. This is basic judicial law. Is the fact that you don't mention anything to do with this charges or whatever until they come to court, until after they've been to court, until after they've had the final say. The judge has said, right, you're going down for 10 years or whatever it is, right?
But, I mean, okay, could have put it out in the papers and out in the press that he'd been accused of such things, and then when he was charged, could maybe say he'd been charged the first of these things. But there should be none of this crap until he's found guilty.
Yes, that's right. Yeah. Yeah.
But, you know, he should be, this trial by TV, they've already got him convicted.
But that's precisely what they did with Nicola Sturgeon, her husband. You know, to have the police gang up at our door and put up a forensic tent and have policemen walking about with shovels over their shoulders. What are they looking for? Fucking bodies. You know, so that's the same as what they're doing with Russell Brand. It's the same as...
We have to know about Brand, but you like him or no, he did attack the establishment, he did attack the established order. And as they're pointing out in the comments here, they're asking who's next, Carol Vorderman.
Yeah, that's right. It could be Carol. Yes, it could.
It could be any of these people.
Yeah. So do we have a situation now where we have to attack the mainstream media? Well, that's always been the case, guys. That's always been the case. The mainstream media are your enemy, and they always have been. And the reason why you're on things like YouTube and whatever is in order to get your voice out away from mainstream media and away from what the government are pushing.
Yes. So the guy's not going to get a fair trial. I don't think so.
Yeah.
He's not going to get a fair hearing because he's already been found guilty in the court of public opinion, which seems to be quite a common thing these days.
Yeah. And you know, I don't know what's going on with maybe lasses that are coming forward and going, oh yeah, me too. He did this and he did that and all the rest of it, right? And you think to yourself, do I believe them? If I believed them, I'd go, yeah, hang the bastard, right? But there's something in the back of my head going, no, it's maybe more to do with the fact he has attacked the establishment, both in Britain and in America. And that makes sense.
I don't watch his channel, so no feel what it is he's detained, but I do know that he has been attacking the establishment big style.
Oh,
you know, for almost every topic.
What he's been doing is he's been going on to the American chat show, and what he's been saying is he's been telling the chat show host what their government have been doing to the people.
Right.
And in America, that makes him dangerous. So there you go.
Bamming people up in the comments again. Well. Right, anyway, 1 week after Angela Rayner gives her big speech at the TUC, Starmer slaps back. Oofed. the BBC gets to see the policy document drawn up in July, and Angela Rayner's promise to get rid of 0 hours contracts ain't part of it. What it says in the policy forum is get rid of 0 hour exploitative 0 hour contracts. Whereas some people like myself, as you know, David, have in the past found jumping into the gig economy suited me down to the ground.
But you have to understand that there are people that are locked into a situation like we discussed before the programme, where you've got such as DPD drivers have to buy their own vehicle, pay for the livery you put on their vehicle at the DPD sign. And if they're sick, they have to hire a driver to actually make sure that their run is done on the days that they're sick. That to me isn't gig economy stuff. That to me is just that slavery. Simple as that. So how do you redress this? How do you actually stop? David, how do you stop the gig economy? How do you stop? It might benefit you and me, but how do you effectively stop the gig economy from happening? You have to attack it. Angela Rayner is maybe not wrong to attack it, because what you have to do is you've got to effectively stop the situation as it is now, and then bring in regulations and all the rest of it that allow you and me to benefit as we were, but allow the people in say DPD or whatever of not being used as slaves.
Or Uber drivers.
Yeah, or Uber drivers.
Just eat delivery guys. Yeah. You know, but the point is, the promise was for Angela Rayner within 100 days, 0 hour contract out the window. Right? Yeah. It's not a hard thing to sort, by the way. You know what I used to do with Roy? I'd sign up for a 1 hour contract.
Yeah.
That made me an employee.
Yeah.
All right, I was working more than 1 hour, but it made me an employee.
Yeah.
But as I say, what he said is they've rolled back to what Angela Rayner promises to put an end to 0 hour contracts in 100 days. The policy blueprints presented to the BBC, and they tell us that he's rolled back on it. It's only going to be exploitative, a 0 hour contracts that they'll target. How do you police it?
Well, it's dead simple. You make it illegal for 0 hour contracts. What that does is, if I was say a sole trader and I was doing a 0 hours contract for a particular big company, right? The big company would go, oh, sorry, Dave, we can't have you on anymore because the law has changed. And I'd go, right, fine, I'll just form a limited company in order that I can actually bill you at the end of the month for any hours that I've done. How's about that? The company goes, fine. That gets round at no bother.
Of course it does. There's lots of ways around it. That's what I'm saying. How do you bloody well police it? But anyway, in the same policy document, this is even more important. He's also went back on the pledge to rise, to raise up the level of sickness benefit so that people don't have to trudge into work when they're ill, as they tend to do now.
Yeah.
A cold or a flu, you're going to your job.
You couldn't afford to. You couldn't afford to lie in your bed knowing you're just going to get sick pay, because sick pay now is
£19 a week.
Yeah. People
you don't get for the first 3 days you're sick.
That's right. That's
right. But he was also going to extend that to the self-employed.
Yeah. Which should have been anyway.
They've scrapped that and all.
Yeah.
So another few pledges on workers' rights out the bloody window.
What are Labour for? What are Labour for?
But it does tell us that the internal war within the Labour Party and the march to the right in the Labour Party continues, because 1 week earlier, Angela Rayner makes a promise.
Yeah.
A week later, Starmer issues June's policy blueprint. Now, surely Angela Rayner was in the policy forum back in June. July, sorry.
Yeah.
So she actually thought, because she's supposed to hold the power over workers' rights.
That's right.
Right, because that's part of her elected position.
Mm-hmm.
But it would appear the trade unions and Mr. Starmer have managed to get around it.
Well, Mr. Starmer is going to get around it anyway, because what's going to happen is it's going to get to the general election, and we're all going to be looking at it and going, it's either into the frying pan or it's into the fire, guys. We're either going to have the Tories, and it's going to be more of the same lunacy, or it's going to be the Labour Party and more of new lunacy.
They definitely need to break that model down there, and hopefully the Greens will come up the outside and get them all bloody fried, because they're running a white point prospectus down there. As we know, the Maester Momentum is split for Labour, so they'll look for a new home, you know. The problem with that is when you get a party going up the inside like that, as we've already discussed, then the amount of votes that go there could either see the one you don't want in, or the one you don't want in, you know. But as I say, it was a slap in the puss for Angela Rayner. You know, 1 week after her big speech at TUC, and the policy, the policy papers that were put in place in July are released. The BBC see them and say, "Hold on a minute, he's rolled back on this, he's rolled back that, he's rolled back that." But where he goes in it.
Yep.
Right, next one, Stephen Flynn challenges Anna Sarwar on triple lock for pensions. Labour had committed to keep the triple lock in pension in the 2019 manifesto. They promised to keep it to 2025 if they get in. But this is all about campaigning at the local election in Hamilton and Rotherham West, because as we know, neither the Tories or Starmer have committed to keeping the triple local pensions.
Nope. And I have to leave you guys. Unfortunately, this is a call from my doctor, and I need to take it. All right.
Right.
So, guys, see you again.
There you go, folks. You're left with me. Anyway, so Stephen Flynn challenges Anna Sarwar based on the local election, the by-election coming up. Now, there's something else that needs to be spoken about here for people in Rutherglen and Hamilton West. Please be aware, folks, that this by-election is subject to voter identification. If you're in Rutherglen and Hamilton West and don't have the suitable identification, then get a grip of your local voter electoral office at your council and get yourself a voter identification certificate, or whatever they're calling it. Just phone up where you normally the electoral register, where you normally do your register to get your polling card, and explain to them that you need this certificate to be able to vote. That's very important, folks. As we've seen for the Electoral Commission's report on the 2023 local elections, it had a massive effect on who could and couldn't vote. And I've seen in the comments that, quite interestingly, have Labour in that by-election in Hamilton, Rutherglen and Hamilton West, if they factored in the amount of people who won't have that are likely to vote Labour. Well, you know, that same can be said for the SNP and the Greens and all. If people are not aware in Rutherglen and Hamilton West that they need ID for this vote, let's make sure they find out, folks. All right, so if you're in that Rutherglen and Hamilton West area and when you're watching this, make sure your friends, your family, your neighbours all know what sort of identification it is that you need. Okay. So that's very important. But as I say, things are warming up over there in Hamilton, Rutherglen and Hamilton West. Thanks, Patricia. Money for David's rant. Aye, he was on form today. We don't get much of him. Sometimes it doesn't sound right, but he made it right this time, didn't he? He was off on one. Sometimes he gets it to flow right. The SNP, while canvassing, should be carrying the application forms for voter ID. Absolutely correct, Desiree, and I hope they are. But we'll be able to find out, and we'll just ask. So, as I say, it's very important, this voter ID thing. As I say, the Electoral Commission says it was a form of voter suppression, very serious. Now, only one subject left. I'm trying to see whether David's finished on the phone or no. No, he's still on the phone. We've only one subject left to talk about today, and that is oil, the rise in fuel prices. I don't know if you've noticed, folks, but over the last a week or 10 days, fuel prices have shot up by, at the forecourt, shot up by roughly 14 pence or more. Looking around my local forecourts, it is 155 for a litre of petrol and 157 for a litre of diesel. David's telling me where he is, it's 162 for a litre of diesel because he drives a diesel car. Now, we calculated that out at £6.90 a gallon for diesel and £6.60 for a gallon of petrol. Sore one. But what's important is inflation was on a downward trajectory. This is going to take it back up again. You know, this is going to have an effect on the inflation figures. So it'll be interesting to see what the inflation figures are when they come out this month. It'll be really interesting to see what the figures are. I imagine with food prices still rising and with the fuel prices now on the way up again, then inflation should be on its way up again. So that's basically what we'll go for you today. Obviously, we're only a wee bit better than that. David has stayed on, but the inflationary pressures are coming from all directions again. There's the pound devalued that much, haven't they? Look at the currency today. Funny thing, sorry, did deep hydrosmars last night, some sort of stereotyping. Get an electric car. Electric cars, Robert, are a bad idea. I'm sorry. I mean, the amount of carbon that's produced in the car itself, then the batteries goes after 8 years, and it costs a fortune to sort them out. My advice on postal voting is it's an option for people who don't have ID. Put in for a postal vote. I don't think you have to. I don't think you're subject to needing to send in your driving license or your passport or whatever it is. Your postal vote. So postal vote's not a bad shout. Not a bad shout. Petrol's at stupid prices and all, is it? Bro. As I say, it is getting out of hand, folks. It really is. The pressures are being bundled on the poorest amongst us, especially if you live in a rural community, because if you're in a rural community, you're dependent on your car. Absolutely dependent on it. The bus services will never get you where you need to go, and things like that. So, electric cars, I'm not keen on the idea of electric cars. It's just this idea that it's cleaner and greener. No, it's not. It's no. It takes as much to produce one and dispose of one as what it does with anything else. So there you go. And postal voting. It's definitely an option. It really is. Clinton, Scotland United for Independence is the way for India. That's right. Absolutely correct. So get behind the SNP because it's the only people the international community is looking at. And try not to be so annoying in the comments, Clinton. You know me, I'm not for booting people. So, Tina's away to Asda after this, dreading the prices. Aye. Listen, as I say, the local forecourts, I'm going to leave this in a week, I don't really need fuel, so see if I'll come down any. Knowing my luck, it'll continue to go up. As I say, but this could well see this could have a slight impact on inflation, and that could make a difference of whether the Bank of England Monetary Committee raises interest rates or no again for the 15th time in a row. So, and he's heard that gas and electricity is to go up again. So, let's say inflation won't be going in the right direction, folks, because big business are still profiteering, and they're profiteering wildly. An EV is 99% recycled. I can't say I know that much about it, class action, but what I've seen and what I've been told, I'll have a wee look into it, class action, because to be honest with you, it's not something I've paid that much attention to. EVs. I don't have 40 grand for a new motor or 50 grand for a new motor. I've no intention of leasing one, you know. But as I say, at this point in time, most of us are still using diesel and petrol, and it has got an inflationary, it has an effect on inflation, and that's the one that worries me. Inflation go back up again. But it's just the way it goes, isn't it? So it is. Right, folks, I'm going to wrap this one up there. So if you like what we did today, up until David today, a phone call from his doctor, please hit the like button on YouTube because it's important. It affects the algorithm. Thanks everybody for your generous donations. Folks, if you're on, please share it across your social media platforms. All right. Now, interesting comments today. I see Quentin's been winding people up again today, but yeah, you get a throw in every pack. It keeps people entertained, doesn't it? You guys look after yourselves. So it's bye for me and it's bye for the other one. Look after yourselves and we'll catch you on Thursday at 4 o'clock. Out the door in 24. Eyes on the prize.